Hey everybody, welcome to Casey Turner Presents Talk to Me. I'm super excited because tonight's guest is the Sam Chase. If you're out there watching right now, thank you so much for joining us. Please comment below, let us know where you're tuning in from, and let us know where you first heard Sam and his music, if you've heard of him before. If you've never heard of Sam and his music, you're in for a really big treat. We're going to have a lot of fun. But thank you all so much for being here. Also down in the comments is a link to all of Sam's merchandise, which you can see hanging up there in his bunker, which we'll talk about more later, and also an option to tip to help support this live conversation podcast that I've dove into because there's no other options at this point in my life. But anyways, aside from that, I'm super excited to welcome to Talk to Me. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the Sam Chase.
Hi, Casey.
Hey, Sam, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, staying relatively sane. How are you?
I'm this podcast, livecast, whatever we call it, is actually kind of keeping me sane. I have homework to do and all my friends and artists that I'm interviewing for it, and a structured schedule to do something, and I get to add something to my calendar that I'm not going to cancel, which is a great feeling.
Yeah, do you feel that it's harder to, I used to love when things would get canceled. When you have the expectation that something is going to happen, that would always kind of make me worry about, meeting the expectations that are put upon me. But there's something really, really nice about somebody canceling on you. But I feel like now, since we've been in quarantine, it's more difficult for people to cancel and also for me to cancel. And that's been really difficult for me.
For sure. If you would have canceled on this, it would have been like
Friendship ending. Friendship ending.
Just twist the knife of all the postpone. If you were like, "Hey Casey, can we postpone this?" I'd be like, "Fuck you, Sam."
Like, what the hell would I be doing? Oh yeah, I forgot. I have to sit here and stare out the window for the next hour. I wish I could make it, but it's in the calendar. I can't cancel on it.
So I know that you're also in San Francisco, California, like myself, and you're coming to us live from your bunker, which we'll talk about later. I wanna talk about your bunker and your live shows you've been doing. But first, I just want to ease in here. I'm trying to remember the first time I met you. I've known of you and your music. You and I have talked about this before, but the first time I recall seeing you in the flesh and making eye contact and being like, "Hi, I'm Casey." You're like, "Hi, I'm Sam." That was at a house concert I had with John Craigie a few years ago, and it was maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, actually.
I remember the date. I believe it was like November 11th or 12th, 2016.
That's slightly terrifying that you remember the day. That's great. And I remember you were really ill. You weren't feeling well, so the conversation was literally like, "Nice to meet you. See you later." But I had heard of you and your music before, even at High Sierra Music Festival when I was there in 2015. And but we never crossed paths for whatever reason in the endeavor you've had here in San Francisco with your bands and all the variations and what I've been doing. And I'm so happy that we did cross paths, because now that we have, I feel like I've known you this entire time. It's a bizarre thing. Anyways, so just wanted to say it's good to know you.
Well, thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun. But I got to go stare out my window now. No, I remember it was November 11th or 12th, 2016, because it was not only a couple of days after my birthday, but it was also a couple of days after the 2016 election. And I remember that because it was a fairly somber
because of
mood.
all the celebration you were going through.
Yeah, yeah. That wasn't my finest birthday that I've ever celebrated. That was election night, 2016. But I remember because Craigie had written that song, "Everything is Fucked," and performed it that day. And I remember thinking to myself, like, that is a pretty good song for just a couple of days after this election. But when you get inspired, and that certainly was an inspiring time to write a song, and that starts with "Everything is Fucked."
I agree. I do remember specifically like the first time, like, I mean, I'd heard you play and heard your songs, but I remember the first time I really clicked with you and your songwriting. Like, I was like, wow, where have I been hiding on a rock during this guy's career? And that was when we did the fire benefit at the house concert in Piedmont in 2017. You'd had a fresh new cast on your leg, as did Tim Bloom, I think, at the time, or maybe Tim Bloom's just come off or something. I'm not for sure, but we were in Piedmont, and we had a whole day set up for a fire benefit, and you were part of it. And in my opinion, I mean, it was everyone was there and devoted to everything, but I mean, you stole the show. I mean, I left coming away a huge Sam Chase fan, and I totally just remember that evening and being like in awe of your songwriting. So that was a
That's
great day.
awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun getting to know you too. I feel like there's a certain kind of kindred spiritness, not only in the fact that we're two men of music in San Francisco, but that we're almost exactly the same age.
that's true. You are a little bit older, just to let the audience know. About a
Yeah.
month or so. About a month, maybe exactly a month.
Well, your bangs are a little swoopier too, so you'll
Yeah,
grow out of that in about a month.
yeah. My facial hair is slightly behind yours as well.
Yeah, this is
Hopefully,
my
it's
quarantine beard. I've been growing this in. I wanted a visual representation of all the time that I've been spending in isolation here, and it's I got to tell you, I'm really enjoying it. And one thing that I've realized during this time of shelter in place and self quarantining is that there's really no better feeling in the world than combing your own beard. And you'll realize that
I'll
joy
never
one
know.
of these
I'll never
days.
know. Okay. Well, so I want to back up here and just I want to start kind of from the beginning from Sam Chase. From when you were a wee one, tell us about. I mean, you're born raised San Francisco, and I don't know if I know anyone else that can say that, which is pretty cool, and especially in the music scene, being born and raised here and successful in the music scene. But growing up in San Francisco, can you talk about your kind of first discovery of music and how maybe when there was a switch that went off where you just knew like you're gonna be a performer or find your way to the guitar? How did music enter Sam Chase's life?
Well, that is an interesting question with an answer that probably can weave in many different directions. But um, I think that probably before becoming a musician, I felt myself leaning towards being some type of performer from a very young age, and I remember actually wanting to be a rock star before I ever wanted to learn any sort of instrument. And I remember my seventh birthday, I had a dream that to celebrate, it was like my sixth or seventh birthday, I wanted to have a rock star birthday party. And the way that I planned the party in my head is the way that you would imagine a 6 or 7 year old would plan their own rock star birthday party, which is with these things that definitely happen or be done, within the means that my parents could afford, as well as, you know, uh, 3D space and general physics and talent. But one thing that I imagined was that my I would have a stage set up in the back of my mom's Plymouth Voyager van, and the back tailgate would open up, and inside would be my entire band that I would have there, and I'd be on stage. It was the '80s, so I'd be in like all black spandex with like, kind of looking like Ultimate Warrior, but like a 7 year old. And then my dad was going to be playing drums. My dad neither plays drums nor owns a drum kit, by the way. And I'd be playing guitar, and I neither owned an electric guitar nor or knew how to play. But in my head, we were going to be like this kick-ass rock band, heavy metal, '80s metal, hair metal. We didn't call it '80s metal back in the '80s, but hair metal band. And all my friends, of which I had very few, all of them, all 150, 200 that we could fit in my mom's driveway, would be the fans, and they'd be going crazy for these songs. And that was what I had planned in my head. This is a very long answer, but in actual, what ended up happening I remember was we had it in my living room. There was a lot of tambourines, I remember, and a guitar that was detuned because it was a toy. And I wasn't allowed to be the rock star the whole time, and that really upset me. So, as a performer, as a rock star persona, that evolved and came about at a very early age. But it really wasn't until I was about 13 that I actually took any interest in learning any instrument at all. And I'm lucky because guitar came supernatural to me. I tried to play piano from when I was in first grade, and it never took. And all other types of instruments never took, but guitar just came just super, super natural to me.
What's kind of funny that I think a lot of people don't know about either of us is that when we were both young children, coincidentally, we dabbled in the Elvis impersonation zone. And what's funny about that, I mean, I think you had posted some photo about it, and I was like, no way, like I did that too, and like that was my first. I want to be on stage. I want to be in front of people. I want to be doing something where everyone's looking at me. And Elvis, for whatever reason, was my outlet for that. And coincidentally, do you want to talk about a little bit about your early career in Elvis impersonation and why you don't do that every once in a while today?
I think every time I get up on stage, there's a part of me that's doing a really piss poor impression of Elvis. Um, but I mean, Elvis was the ultimate performer when you're a kid. And I idolized Elvis, and I got into the Elvis impersonations because I'm the spitting image of the king of rock and roll, that cultural icon and object of many's desires. I look almost exactly like him. More so when I was
Uncanny.
12.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, the nice thing
So
about your Elvis appearance, like unlike mine, I had to spray my hair black for every performance, whereas you've got a nice dark head of hair.
yeah, yeah, untouched.
My grandma had made me some outfits. She made me the gold jacket, and then
Hmm.
she built me a jumpsuit, which is pretty cool. And even in my fourth grade school picture, it pissed my mom off. But I did the lip. I did the
Really?
and I
Yeah.
got made fun of it for it hard. Um,
Yeah,
yeah. Well,
my
that's
mom made me my costume as well, and it. I mean, I was more fat Elvis. You were kind of younger Elvis. I've seen the photos. I was kind of like the chubbier, older Elvis, while you were like Elvis in his young prime.
you started off with like Suspicious Minds. You started off with the Las Vegas career. I was
Yeah,
a little more
you're like straight out of the military, like
but
moving
not
into.
'68 comeback Elvis, because I mean that's the
Oh no.
untouchable. That's the
Oh yeah, you were still starring in little bikini movies.
right.
Bikini movies? I don't know. That's what I'm gonna call them.
Okay. Well, I'd like to hear a song from you if you got one for us.
Sure.
I can transition.
Yeah. Wish I knew an Elvis song actually right now. The year I hit the eastern seaboard, where I felt younger than I ever had before. Where I figured 2 months at sea had hardened me, but I found the water was still softer than the shore. I don't know what it brought me to that place, land of the angry and disgraced, where no one thought that good behavior ever gets you to your savior. 2 feet above the ground was man's only reward. Dark streets of poverty, take me in and carry me, and show me what I need to make my own. spent enough time just trying to get by. With all them jobs that kept me up all day and night. So I made my way to Massachusetts with nothing but sea salt in my pockets and a dream that seemed to fade every time I woke. And it's about that time you came into my life. And not long after you agreed to be my wife. Oh, you saw me for what I am, which was not a wealthy man. But since that day I've been the richest man alive. Dark streets of poverty, take me in and carry me, and show me what I need to make my own. Sweet Lady Liberty, look at what you made of me. Oh, you have no idea what harm you've done. You have no idea what harm you've done. Not much sense in dwelling on the past. My bones are brittle and as breakable as glass. So now I lie here in my bed, going over in my head all those things in life that I hope would last. Not much left to do, live out my final days. And every chance I get, put flowers on your grave. For now that I am an old man, I'm older than I've ever been. Getting older by the minute, I've been told. Dark streets of poverty, take me in and carry me, and show me what I need to make my own. Sweet Lady Liberty, look at what you made of me. Oh, you have no idea what harm you've done. You have no idea what harm you've done.
Doesn't it feel good to have applause?
It does. I've missed that. I had to download an applause app on my phone so that I could just feel it every now and then.
As you go to sleep at night, you just play it in your head.
Yeah, it's like white noise for me. It just helps me go to sleep.
If you are just joining us, welcome to Casey Turner Presents Talk to Me. My guest right here is the Sam Chase from San Francisco, California. If you are, like I said, just joining, please comment below. Let us know where you're watching from. Also, please share this video. Help us get as many people watching as we possibly can. And, yeah, let everyone know. Thanks for being here and tuning in. And also, check out the links below and get you some Sam Chase merchandise, which we'll talk more about later. And if you want to tip and help this live conversation podcast, it is greatly appreciated. Because right now, we making nothing. Right, Sam? Maybe something, but not.
I'm doing all right. I've got these live streams. The live streams are going great, man. I mean, as you can see, I've got this whole virtual merch booth going here that I've basically turned this room into the performative space that I'll be doing all my performances from for the next who knows how long. So, man, as soon as this happened, I kind of saw the writing on the wall, considering like the day that we shut down everything was the day before I was supposed to leave for my first European tour. So when I saw that I had to cancel that, I realized, you know, we're in for some pretty brutal beating as promoters and musicians, and so just kind of jumped on this, and it seems to be working out all right. I do miss performing, and when you can do like 5 shows a week in different towns, you're not playing the same songs to the same audience, but
I
you
will
know,
I will say this, and it's not just because you're my guest right now, but I've tuned in to your live stream, and it out of all the ones I've seen, no offense to everyone else, it is the greatest live stream, and for several reasons. Besides the great songwriting and the performance, you've got it set up like a total show. It's so organized. You got multi-camera angles. You've got an intro that's just breathtaking. It's a whole theme. It's he's live from the bunker, and I've had several interviews this week with myself for other things, and I've mentioned to all of them, tell people to go see the Sam Chase and his live stream because I think it's the best one that I've seen. And he has these commercials that you plug in. You want to talk about that a little bit? It's a great idea.
yeah. Well, when I started doing these live streams, um, I realized that I had, a decent recurring following that was coming back every week, and then, it was kind of building on that. So, I- you know, I didn't want things to get kind of stagnant and boring, but I also realized that since I had this audience, I wanted to help others who might be struggling right now. So I asked around and texted a bunch of my friends who own local businesses or are starting local businesses or just started some, or things that, that they can market and sell through the internet, and ask them to make me commercials so that I can then put them into my live stream and, have a word from our sponsors. And it's all free to them. I'm not charging, obviously. I mean, that's crazy. But I have a bunch of friends who own restaurants in the city and bars and stuff, and my friend Austin Quattlebaum, a fellow musician, has since started a small stool making company. He calls them squaddles, and they're just small wooden stools. And since making the commercials, he is just back ordered for weeks. He's turned stool making into a full time job, whereas 2 months ago he had never even thought about making a stool in his life, and now he's making hundreds of them.
Dude, that's the Squaddle commercial is I was in tears. It's the funniest thing I've ever seen. So I don't know if you play that one every live stream or not. It's so great. I hope you do.
Well,
So if
there's
you,
three different ones now. Every week he comes up with another one, and so he's come up with three. We've done it for 3 consecutive weeks, and I don't know if he's come up with a one for tomorrow. I might pester him and see if he can make one. But his last one, I might do this week again too, because it's so good.
so if folks want to catch your live stream, you got to find him on Facebook. It's the Sam Chase and the Untraditional, his full band name, and they're every Friday, I believe. At what time?
3 Friday at 3.
That's 3 California Pacific Standard Time. So do the
Yeah,
math accordingly. But definitely go and check it out. I think you can see your past ones. You leave them up there, right? I think you can.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, cool. They're fantastic. So I want to get back on our timeline here, if it's cool with you. So
Sure.
you have the epic rock star birthday party. Didn't
Hmm.
go quite as planned, but it went pretty well. We've got some Elvis impersonation on your belt. Let's kind of venture up to. So you went to high school here in San Francisco, correct?
Yeah, I went to high school.
Were you, did you play music in high school? At what point did you actually get that guitar in your hand and start? Maybe not writing songs right away. I have no idea if you were writing right away, but at least performing and playing at the schoolyard.
I started writing right away, and I got a bass for my bar mitzvah. And so I started on bass, and I didn't really know what a bass was, because when I got the bass, I thought I would be able to play it like a guitar. And I found out very quickly after picking up the bass for the first time that it was not as fun as a guitar. And especially when you have no idea how to play it. And so a lot of my friends, when I was in seventh, eighth grade, had guitars. And so we'd go During recess, we'd go to the library part of the school, which was basically a corner of the school where nobody was, and crank up our little tiny little Fender practice amps. And, I'd have my bass, and they'd be playing Nirvana songs and Metallica songs and stuff. And I'd be sitting there like, dong, 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 just basically writing the E because I didn't know what to do. And it wasn't until, they'd hand me the guitar, turn the distortion up, that I really felt that feeling of, you know, an instrument and you pouring your soul into an instrument. The floodgates opened and I was like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
And so, a lot of folks that have been listening to your music for some time now, you have a folk Americana approach, some rock, and we'll talk again more about that with your records. But you really kind of come from more of a punk rock background. So, who were some of those early influences when you got that hand on that guitar, distortions up? What's on the Sam Chase turntable at that time?
Well, definitely Nirvana and all the grunge bands were. I was right in that age where, I missed being a fan of Nirvana when Kurt Cobain was alive, just by a hair, but became a rabid fan of Nirvana after he died. And, Soundgarden was a big one, and Stone Temple Pilots, all those grudge bands, Smashing Pumpkins, and then you have like the Melvins and Mudhoney, and I'm forgetting thousands and thousands of bands in that, but that genre. And then after that, I mean, there was a lot of like thrash metal, like early Metallica was making its way into my musical lexicon, and then it made its way into punk rock, and that was around the time that No Effects and Rancid and a lot of the East Bay punk bands were starting to make a name for themselves. Green Day had already become super super big, but a lot of the East Bay punk bands, and then there was like a huge East Bay punk scene that I just was on the tail end of when I came of age. And so, I was trying to go to as many all ages punk shows as I could. But that's
Where,
really.
where did you go see shows at in the Bay Area in that
There
time?
was there was a club called Club Cocodrie that was in North Beach, and it was the only place that I knew of where I could go see all ages punk shows. And they would have this Sunday afternoon matinee thing where they would have all the underage bands come to this bar and be able to play. And that was, I mean, oh man, I never felt so part of something tangible and a scene. So uh, outside of hanging out with friends at school, and being able to go to that was almost like going to church for me. And being able to see these bands was the closest I was getting to being able to experience kind of that live show, other than shows that my parents would chaperone with my friends at the bigger stadium ones. Um, so that was my first taste of really being able to experience a punk rock scene, and I loved it.
And during that time, as you're absorbing this music, you're playing guitar at home. Were you looking at those folks on stage and being like, "I want to be that"?
Yes, yes,
That's pretty
I
cool.
was so jealous of all my friends that were able to be up on stage, and I wanted it so badly. And I had already been writing songs from the second I picked up the guitar. So, at that point, I felt like an expert. And when you're young and stupid like that, you think that your songs are the greatest songs ever written. And you think that, the second that you get onto that stage and you make your way to that stage, that everybody's head is going to turn. They'll be like, where have you been this whole time? Like, this is the face of modern music to come. And everybody, and it was obvious to me, and I just needed the chance to be able to then show it to the world. And so I started a band, and we had our first show at a teen center in the East Bay, and we were opening up for one of my friends' bands, and we had a 3-song set, and I remember playing it, and the band before us had this big crowd of kids and they're all jumping around and moshing and stuff. And then we get on and everybody sits down and the dance floor is empty except for one kid. And that was my first experience of that show that I was going to become very, very familiar with over the next 20 or so years, which is the empty venue and the people that do not give a shit what kind of noise you're making and could be less entertained. Um, so that was a very eye-opening moment for me, and I'm glad I had it in the long run. I was really pretty downtrodden after that show, but I'm glad that I had it because I think that what I gained from that is a humility when I've always kind of had this mantra, and it seems a little kind of bleak, but I mean it in a positive way. This mantra, which is, you ain't worth shit until you prove yourself, and even when you prove yourself, you ain't worth shit. So like you can prove yourself to somebody, but that next person behind that person does not give a shit about you, and you should not expect them to give a shit about you. And the fact, I don't know how many people are watching this right now, but because all of you are watching this, that gives me worth and I appreciate it. But there are 7 billion other people that do not give a shit about this live stream right now. So it's to recognize that sort of humility kind of brings you back to earth in those moments where your head can get a little big and you can kind of get a little carried away with your own ego. And I think that that's an important quality to have because that is the best way to interface with your audience because while they want to see something spectacular up on stage, they also want to be able to identify with that person. And I feel like a lot of my musical heroes were those types of people. They weren't rock gods that I couldn't imagine myself being. They were all very human, and I feel like that's a quality in performance that you're seeing more and more of these days, but there wasn't much of back then.
Yeah, I feel like the majority of Kiss fans don't really get to say that. I totally
Yeah,
relate to Gene, man.
yeah, yeah.
I
And
don't
if
know,
you
maybe
do, you
I'm
got
just pissed off.
problems.
No offense to all the Kiss fans. Soundgarden's better though. Sorry.
I
Uh,
mean, yeah, you could be a Kiss fan. "God Gave Rock and Roll to You" is one of the greatest songs ever written.
just saying. So how old were you when you had that experience of what you took as it sounds like uh, growth? I mean, it didn't detour you to put the guitar down and never do it again because here you are today. So
That was the last show, first and last show that band ever played
okay,
because of it.
okay.
Had it been a great show, it might have had legs for a little bit longer. But I did retire that band immediately after that show.
And
But I
how
was
yeah.
I was 15, maybe. I think I was in high school at that point, and I continued to write songs. I continued to, craft the future projects. But I kind of started from square one at that point and tried and went in a different direction.
So getting through high school, next step being college. You went to school in Santa Cruz, correct?
Yeah, UC
You
Santa
went,
Cruz.
yeah. So you were playing? Were you playing music all through your college experience?
Yeah, I was in a punk rock band called the Pushovers in early college, late high school, early college. That was, kind of I hated pop punk and I hate the term pop punk, but looking back, it was a lot more pop punk than it was kind of the hardcore punk rock that I wanted it to be, and that I was hoping that I could write. I think that we just weren't good enough to be able to play hardcore enough. We didn't have the kind of. I didn't think we really had the mindset, and I don't think we really had the chops. But after the Pushovers disbanded, I started a band with some college friends called Perfect Machines. And Perfect Machines was a little bit more hard. It was a little bit faster at times. A lot more songs about drinking and a lot more political upheaval type songs, and uh, kind of with a little bit, we fancied ourselves kind of Iron Maiden punk rock, but we didn't have the chops to play as good as Iron Maiden, but we fancied ourselves that, you know. Um, uh, but yeah, that was a lot of fun. Did that until my late 20s.
Yeah, I was going down the Sam Chase rabbit hole yesterday, preparing to for this conversation, and definitely came across a Perfect Machines video on the old YouTubes, and it was good. It was rocking. I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's a 180 from what you do today, but
Hmm.
you could still hear some of those Sam Chase. Uh, the it was in there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they kind of crossed over the Sam Chase days and Perfect Machines days definitely met at one point. And yeah, I loved playing it. We got to open up for a lot of our heroes like Propagandhi and No Use for a Name, and we got to record an EP at Motor Studios, which is Fat Records. I don't know if any of these names are resonating with anybody that's watching right now, but Fat Records is No Effects, the lead singer Fat Mike's his record company, which is pretty much like the largest punk rock DIY record label in the country, I believe. And so we got to record at their studio, and it was. I mean, we got to see a lot of cool stuff
And
in that
also at
band.
this time, I mean, you're playing like you said, you're playing a lot of gigs, playing in front of some larger audiences because you're opening for larger bands.
Hmm.
You're probably developing, I assume, a solid confidence on stage and conducting a band and being a leader. Were you kind of the leader of that band?
Yeah, it was split between me and the other guitar player. Um, but the other guitar player actually eventually got deported, and so I became the de facto leader of the band at that point. But I did most of the singing in that band, even when we did have the other guitar player. And yeah, I for sure like confidence on stage was something that has definitely, it's not something that I attained at a certain point. It's something that is I've learned, every show I've played for the last 20 some odd years. You know, it's and you don't get to that point where you're like, I got it now. It's a continual learning process, much like a Zoom meeting and talking to one of your friends while you see the red record button going and everything is happening all at once. You
It's
know
all
that
documented.
it's documented, and I could just talk my foot into my mouth for the rest of this hour, and then but you got to have the confidence to think that what you're saying is important, that people might give a shit about it.
I think it's great because as a fan of your songs and your songwriting and your performance and getting to know you behind the curtain and see you lead your current band and project now, it's all making even more sense. So if it seems to me like your 10,000 hours was really spent in those college years with the perfect machines. So you're playing gigs, you're getting those chops down on how to be a band leader and be a great performer. At what point does that transition into this? I mean, or at least start to kind of dabble into the sound you're at today. I don't know if it was like a light switch going from a resonator acoustic guitar from a electric full volume
Mm.
guitar, but was there a switch that went off in your head? Like, I want people to hear the words I'm saying more than I don't know. What
It's
was
a
the
great question. Great question. The songs that became the Sam Chase, I had been writing since I was 14 years old. I don't play any songs that I wrote when I was 14 years old, but that type of self-reflective, therapeutic songwriting that I consider my songs today to be for me. I had been writing since the first day I picked up a guitar. I just figured that nobody wanted to hear those songs because all of those songs were for myself. They were, me delving deep and in order to try and figure out who I am, and a way for me to kind of I'm not a terribly emotional person, outwardly emotional person. So, and songwriting was always a way for me to kind of like uh, emote and delve into those feelings that I probably otherwise wouldn't really go too deep into. And so I kept those mainly for myself until like my late 20s. I would show some of these songs that I would write to some of my very, very, very closest friends, but or and girlfriends and stuff. But I didn't ever want to show that to people because I had the punk rock music, and that's what I wanted to get famous for. I wanted to be on stages singing about the government and about drinking a lot on a Tuesday night and hitting the town, knocking over trash cans. And, it's like I wanted to have that personality, and I wanted that to be the persona that I portrayed. That character is what I wanted to portray. I didn't want to portray the heartfelt songwriter. And it wasn't until I was, and none of my friends, by the way, really gave a shit about the punk rock music. There, very few of my friends actually really liked the punk rock music. So I remember I was driving with one of my friends, or a car full of my friends. We stopped to get gas, and my iPod was on shuffle. And so I went and got gas, paid for it, got back in the car, and my iPod had shuffled and started playing some of my softer songs that I'd record in my bedroom by myself. And I remember all my friends kind of looking at me. I was like, "What?" And they were like, "What is this you?" And I was like, "Yeah, it is." And they were like, "Do you have more of this?" And I was like, "I have hundreds of these." And they were like, "Can we hear more of them?" And I was like, "Why do you want to hear this?" And they're like, we really like this." And I was like, "What do you mean you really like it?" They're like, "This is great." And I was like, "But what about the punk rock music?" They're like, "No, no, we do not like the punk rock music. But we like this. You should play more of this. Why aren't you playing this?" And I was like, "Well, this is, you know." And so that's kind of where the Sam Chase kind of stemmed from. I played my first show. I played under the name The Sam Chase, kind of a joke. Um, and from the get go, I started
What year?
having
Sorry, not to interrupt, but what year was that when you did
that
the Sam Chase?
was, well, the year it that my friends probably heard it on the iPod was probably like 2006, 2007, somewhere around there. And then I started kind of playing under the name The Sam Chase in the late 2000s, 2008, 2009. A lot of it was like, house parties and stuff. And it wasn't until 2011 that I actually got a band together and played under the name The Sam Chase at the Riptide. Um, up until then, things for friends. But my friend group, I remember my friend group kind of came in and would come to these house parties, and every party that I'd get the guitar out and everybody would want to hear this song or that song or this song. And I was like, I think this has legs. Like, this seems to be something that I think I can carry into the clubs. And in 2011, I finally got a band together, and we played at the Riptide, and to a packed house. And had it been just as empty as that day, that afternoon in the East Bay a bunch of years before, I probably wouldn't have continued with it. But it was packed, and people loved it, and we played 3 hours of music. And from that moment on, I was like, I think this is my new gig.
I love the story because it's got such an organic feel to it, and it almost feels like the birth of what we all know now as the Sam Chase and the untraditional, and the whole evolution of it was kind of just. I mean, I don't want to say by accident because you were making those songs and writing them, but you really didn't have any intention of sharing those with people. It
Mm-mm.
sounds like it was a kind of a fluke.
Yeah, it was a total fluke, and I mean, it took a lot of. I mean, I was scared. I was scared to show those songs to people, to kind of expose my, soft underbelly to some of my more judgmental friends. And I think I was, I was scared for no reason. I've always had like really, really supportive friends, and um, I think in the end, people want to hear songs that they can identify with more so than random songs about something that I'd never really experienced either. Like making up a persona, I feel like is a more difficult way to kind of communicate with the souls of other people. You know, being as real as you possibly can allows a space. You've opened up a space for other people to be as real and exposed as they can. And I think that that's kind of the definition of the human connection, is being able to feel vulnerable and exposed, but also like trusted and taken care of. And that, I think, is the reason why I wrote those songs. And now that I've performed them for so many years and met people who have gained things from these songs, and have expressed themselves to me and been vulnerable with me, it's, I mean, I'm even more humbled by their appreciation for the music, and I am extremely proud of what I've been able to achieve, but also what these folks have brought to me. I'm so proud of them for being able to walk up to a stranger and say, you know, what they say, which I don't need to talk about here.
Yeah, that was when I was talking to John Craigie in a couple interviews ago. I was asking him one of the questions that a fan asked, which we've got some fan questions for you that we'll get to in just a
Oh,
little
do
bit.
we?
And
Nice.
also we're gonna get some more songs out of Sam too. So sit back, guys, if you're if we're hopefully if the conversation is not too talky. But I do want to say, so yeah, Craigie said the one thing he really misses the most, actually, from this whole kind of pause for everyone is that those conversations at the merch table, the feedback or what a song means to someone or how a certain album maybe affected them through a time. He kind of lives for that connection with the fans, and that's what he really said he misses the most. And it sounds like you could probably relate to that.
Yeah, you know, to be honest though, I feel like with these live streams that I've been doing, and I don't think Craigie is doing as many live streams as I've been doing. I don't know if he does a weekly one or not, but I think I've only seen him do it once or twice. Um, but I think I've communicated with a lot of my fans either just as much, if not more. Um, I feel like the Friday live streams are not just a performance; they're kind of a check-in, and a lot of us kind of check in with each other in between songs. And I've gotten to know some of my fans. You know, I know their Facebook profiles more than I know their faces, but you know, to be able to kind of see these recurring characters every week, it kind of gets me. I don't know. It kind of feels like a little club, like a little team of folks that we kind of get together and check in with each other. And you know, a lot of them reach out to me during the week and after the shows as well. And you know, sometimes there's a back and forth. So I feel like I do kind of still have that connection. What I really miss is there's definitely an electricity that's lost with with this type of communication, and kind of a magnetism, and that I don't get from playing in this room here. I get it from being on stage, and I get it from coming off stage and being able to communicate with those people. That might be kind of what Craigie's talking about a little bit. I can definitely see that for sure. You know, that and the drink tickets. I miss the drink tickets a lot.
Well, if it's cool with you, Sam, I'd love to get another song out of you.
Yeah, sure. How was the audio on that last song?
I think we forgot to turn down the gain on that, so
We sure
it
did.
was a little. It did clip a few times, but it wasn't one of your louder songs, so we pulled through. It was okay.
Yeah, I realized it about
I
halfway, or
I saw it in your eyes. I know
it's a
that
bummer.
look on an artist whenever something's like, oh, I should have done that, but you just got to do it. You got to plow through. Can't stop.
What a pro, Casey Turner.
As Sam's setting up here for his next song, if you're just joining us, welcome. I'm Casey Turner. I'm a local concert promoter here in San Francisco, California, and this is my new live conversation podcast stream, whatever you want to call it, called Casey Turner Presents Talk to Me. I'm doing these every Monday and every Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. The next guest is this Monday, May 4th. Robbie Folks is going to be on. I'm super excited about that. We've got a whole bunch through May. So if you go to CaseyTurnerPresents.com, you can learn more about that. And if you are, like I said, just joining us, please share this with your friends. And if you missed anything beforehand, it will be up afterwards. And also, I'll upload it up to YouTube so we can relive the magic forever. This is the Sam Chase, also in San Francisco, California. Going to play another song for us.
Yeah, so this song I'm going to play actually started off as a Perfect Machine song. So this started off as a punk band song. And then we turned it into kind of a folky punk rock song for The Sam Chase. And this song is on our album, The Sam Chase Will Never Die. And in the past year, I started to mellow this song out even more. And now it's just a straight-on folk ballad. And this is about my days growing up at Club Cocodrie and going to all these, house parties and things with punk bands. And we'd go off and no parents allowed, do all the things that teenagers do when there are no parents around. This song is called Glory. Harder than a wrecking ball, the heat is tearing down these walls. The blood and sweat is pouring from the tap, it's overflowing. There's bodies pounding broken bones. The world could end, we'd never know. The music's getting louder as our hearts all beat together. Oh, we came for the glory, we came for the fall. We came with a fight in our hearts and gave it our best shot. Oh, people doing what they want to do, and nothing here is good for you. There's something reassuring on these bridges that were burning. No one here wants to believe that there might be no way to leave. No one wants to show it, it's a trap, and we all know it. Oh, we came for the glory, we came for the fall. Oh, we came with a fight in our hearts, gave it our best shot. Now, Casey, this is the part where we do a repeat after me, whoa, 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 okay? Whoa, 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 how could you really blame us in a world where nothing changes? People need to know they're doing something that will keep them moving. So we built them a house and wrote them a song and burned that midnight oil, doing everything wrong. And we feel invincible, and yet deep in our hearts there must be a part of something that we're doing that's right. We came for the glory, we came for the fall. Oh, we came with a fight in our hearts and gave it our best shot. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Nice. I have my my microphone muted whenever the artist plays a song, so that's why I was a little delayed there.
Yeah.
Plus, there's probably a lag anyway, so my woes are probably just now coming in. No.
Yeah, yeah.
Everyone's like, why is he just yelling right now at Sam? Don't forget to turn your gain back up on your mic there for the speaking portion.
Yes, thank you for reminding me.
Thank
you, Casey. That's much better.
Oh, yes, a little NPR.
Yeah, maybe we could do a little ASMR video. Welcome, everyone.
That's just terrifying.
I can eat a tuna sandwich right now. Would you like for me to eat a tuna sandwich right now? How
You're
about some
like,
water? Let's have some water. Is that disgusting?
there
A
are
little
some people.
frightening?
I think there is actually there's some kind of some people have a thing, like where like some people cilantro tastes like soap. Those noises in people's ears sometimes either are super erotic, I think, and amazing, or like make them want to go into a seizure.
Casey, I want to tell you a little secret. I'm super into it.
And it's right in my ear, so it's just like all of a sudden every laptop in San Francisco is broken speakers. Um,
Yeah.
so that was a song off of your first debut record as the Sam
Second.
Chase.
Second.
Oh, oh, okay. So "Will the Lead Us to Victory" was not the first Sam Chase record.
Lead Us to Victory was the first one, but this song was on Will Never Die.
Ew, I misunderstood. My bad. Well,
That's
let's
right.
just without forgetting about the first record. So, "Will Lead Us to Victory" came out in 2012, just maybe shortly a year after that first Riptide gig. So,
Yeah.
sounds like things were clicking for you. You got that group of songs together and put out that first record.
Yeah, I started recording that album before that show. Even I did a lot of most of the instruments on that record are me playing, the bass, the guitar, a banjo, um, melodica. There's a few other instruments on there. I can't really remember, but um, then some other folks came in towards the end of the album. But yeah, most of that stuff was me. And then our former drummer, John Carr, was the drums on that record. But
Cool.
yeah, so I started recording that before even that show happened, and then finished it up later that year.
And then, as prolific as you are, just the following year later, that's when you came out with "Will Never Die." That's why I got confused. I got my notes here because both albums start with "Will."
Yeah.
I just kind of
I
caught that. So I
wanted
was
it
like,
to be a
oh,
thing, but then it's like already having the in front of Sam Chase is kind of quirky and schlocky, and then having every album being kind of like this narcissistic kind of the Sam Chase is the greatest human of all time kind of thing. It's like, I had to stop it at a certain point.
so, but the record that followed the Sam Chase will never die. That's kind of got I mean, the crowd kind of favorite hit. Rock bottom has never felt so good.
Yeah.
I mean, when you wrote that song and you started playing it, did you have any idea that that would kind of become the anthem for the band?
No, I didn't.
Like everyone,
I
everyone that
knew.
knows you knows that song. That's like the
Yes, yes, that's the number one hit for the live shows at least. Our number one hit on in terms of like streaming and all that is another song on that album. The next song actually on that album, which is "In a Perfect World," but "Rock Bottom" is a close second, or actually it's a pretty distant second on Spotify. But at the shows, nobody's calling out for "In a Perfect World." It's definitely like the heavy drinking album, and that's kind of the persona that we give off on stage. So I think it fits with our MO and the demographic that we've attained through our performances. Definitely our rock bottom crowd.
Well, I mean, that's a good transition to. I mean, throughout all your albums, this one especially, but all of them, you really do have a lot of honesty in your songs, and there's a lot of kind of humor painted in, like, I feel like self-reflection and deep honesty and things that maybe people relate to, like you were saying earlier. And some of it's kind of laughing at maybe what people would consider problems. Like the Rock Bottom has never felt so good, such a great anthem, but it's also kind of like you know, you want to talk about just like the premise of how you write some of the songs and where they come from and
Well, yeah, I mean,
how honest
definitely.
how honest are you when you write?
Well, I'm pretty honest, and the ones that are more humorous are probably me hiding from the honesty. So those are probably the most honest songs, because I've always kind of uh, used humor as a crutch. I don't know as a crutch so much as a security blanket. Um, and when I'm uncomfortable, I try to be funny. Um, and when you catch me in a moment where I'm like not performative in a funny way, that's when you really get to see the real me. And I don't. It's not a super interesting person by any means, but it's they, I'm never trying to be funny when I'm by myself. But the humor is definitely. I feel like, um, I mean, one thing I do feel is that is life is a comedy, and whether it's a slapstick comedy or a dark comedy, it's a comedy. And to be able to see the humor and everything in everyday life, I think is something that I've always felt has been kind of a benefit. Um, uh, and so a humorous turn of phrase isn't necessarily me running from the truth, but it's recognizing that the truth is hilarious. So, I could be, a sad sack and just write this horribly sad song. Um, but I feel like without acknowledging the humor and the sadness is kind of a waste of a song, because I think that songs like emotions need to be complex. If you have a complex emotion, uh, that will bring out a complex emotion in somebody else, much like a complex song um, brings out complex emotions in others. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks
Yeah.
for sharing that. That was some good insight. Nice
Yeah,
answer.
I just thought of it.
So then that brings us to the next record, which came out about 3 years later, Great White Noise, and that's when you've landed on the current band name, which is the Sam Chase and the Untraditional.
Yeah.
And the title track. I was watching the music video on that because I mean I feel like also in some of your songs you get very political, and this record definitely reflects that.
Yeah.
And there's that the Great White Noise, the music video at the very end there where you're sitting there and the atomic bomb goes off.
Hmm.
I don't know. I was watching that and it's so powerful, and it just made me just kind of reminded me. And I never thought I've always thought this, but I just never thought to bring it up. It's like you're not really afraid to speak your mind. If you feel like something needs to be addressed, you say it. You'll tweet it, or you don't really tweet that much, but I'm saying like you will voice it, whether it's on social media, on the stage, on a record, on a song. And have you always been an outspoken person? When you see something wrong, you're like, nope, I'm going to talk about this.
Um, I don't know. That's hard to answer. I always feel there's a lot of things I don't say. I keep my mouth shut more than you think, and uh, I'd probably be a lot more annoying if I just let it fly all the time. But when I see something that a song comes when I write a song, it's not like I'm going to write a song about this today. It comes out from the thoughts that I'm having at the moment that the song is coming out. And a lot of times when I'm writing a song, I'm processing a thought or an emotion. And a lot of the songs that were on that album were me processing, the upcoming 2016 election, and the ways in which social media and the internet has kind of taken over our lives, and me processing getting older and growing out of things and growing into things that I didn't think I should be growing into. And for me it was a I wasn't intending on writing a political record per se, or a socio-political record. It was just that's what I was thinking about at the time. So, you know, I don't claim to be the smartest guy in the room, and I don't claim to be the voice, that other people, the voice of any sort of movement or anything. I just have, I've got my ideas of how I think the world should work, and sometimes I get a little uh, bent out of shape, and a song comes out where I'm like, "Hey, man, this is fucked up." But on my own time, I think I'm a really political person, and I definitely have my opinions about things that I at the risk of alienating some very dear people that I've grown to love, I keep some of those things to myself because I've realized in my travels throughout the country that I've met a lot of people who don't necessarily see eye to eye with me on one thing. You know, politics and team playing is one thing out of billions of things that you could have in common with somebody. And so I don't get up in people's faces because I disagree with them on that one thing. I try to find the commonality. While I'm a very privately political person, the great white noise type songs don't come out as often as they would if I wasn't so private about it.
I mean, I definitely view you as a leader in all sorts of ways, and I think a lot of people also, when you do speak, you're kind of reflecting a lot of their thoughts and feelings, and they see you as someone. It's like, oh, he's not afraid to say it. He's kind of saying it on my behalf. Or I just when you say some really prolific things on the microphone, whether they be political or something with human rights or just what you feel about the certain moment,
Mm,
you tend to rally people pretty greatly. You have a good choice
yeah.
of words when you decide to go that route, not just in
Yeah.
song, but when you do speak. Which, speaking of a leader, and speaking of the next and the latest project from the Sam Chase and the Untraditional, your latest record is this incredible, "The Last Rites of Dallas Pistol," and it's absolutely outstanding. I listened to it again today when I was on a walk before this
Mm.
conversation. But reason I mentioned uh, staying out as a leader with this one, so that show, or you released that record to the world live at the Fillmore, which is uh, hang on one second. I have my phone on Do Not Disturb, and somehow Bill DeCarly from Hot Monk Tavern found his way through the noise.
Bill,
Anyways, that's
crafty
annoying.
man.
Okay, we're at the Fillmore Auditorium in San Francisco, the legendary Fillmore, and we sold it out. It's you and Poor Man's Whiskey, and you're releasing your. Oh my, hang on one second, Sam. My computer's freaking out. Okay, cool, awesome, live, sweet. Hang on. I'm just gonna turn my phone off. It was on silenced. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, let's bring it back here. Try
Yeah,
to not have technical difficulties. So we're at the
we're on
Fillmore,
stage.
sold out. It's your first time ever playing this legendary venue. You're releasing this new record, and right before you go on stage, you're in the green room with your band, and I happen to be in there, and you go, Casey, you get in here too, and we all get in a huddle, and you tell everyone in that room that everyone in this room deserves to be on this stage tonight. Your huddle was just. I mean, it gives me goosebumps just thinking about it because it was so inspiring and so motivating, and it was really I was like, man, this guy really is a true leader, and this band has got to see that, and they do. And anyway, so there's that part of it, but then I also know that this particular project took you a very long time to create. And
Yeah.
for those of you that don't know, The Last Rites of Dallas Pistol is kind of a rock opera anthem. It's got a and
Yeah.
there's I feel like it's a movie being played out throughout the record. You want to talk about that, the process, when you started making it, and how good it must
Sure.
have felt to be able to share it with the world at the Fillmore in San Francisco.
Well, kind of like your last question, I'm not a political songwriter, but I'm a political person who writes political songs. I'm definitely not a rock opera writer. I'm just a guy that decided to write rock operas. I don't even think I'm a folk singer. I'm just a guy that sings folk songs. I'm all these things that I'm not any of these things, but I tend to kind of like pick up the mantle and try to create something like that. So like for this, I'd never written any sort of rock opera before, obviously. But after We'll Never Die, I thought to myself, well, what's the next possible thing I could do here? I could write another, folky rock and roll record, or I could, kind of branch out and do something different. And I grew up listening to like the Who's Tommy and yeah, all the other rock operas that are totally escaping my mind right now. But I decided like this is I should. Oh, Hedwig was a big one for me. That's definitely. Um,
I
but
love that movie. Yeah.
Oh my God, every song. I got to see it on Broadway in New York a handful of years ago. It was amazing. Anyways, but I decided to pick up that project next, and I figured, oh yeah, we're releasing a record a year at this point. Like I can definitely write a rock opera, and then put it out in 2014. And that's around the time that I started, and we put out Great White Noise while I was writing it, and it took 2 years to record, and it wasn't until November of 2019 that we were able to release it. And it's an 18-song, three-chapter Faustian spaghetti western rock opera. There was 35, 40 songs that could have gone on it, but I had to I whittled it down because the story was going every which way, and I'd never written a story before. I was always writing these sappy songs, and so I the whole time I was creating it, I was like, I think I've bit off more than I can chew. Like, I really hope that this doesn't suck because I'm putting so much time and effort into it, and then during the recording process, spending so much money recording it. But I think it turned out pretty good.
Dude. It's incredible, and the coolest thing about it when you listen to it, and it's got the fullest sound. I mean, there's so much going on throughout the whole record, and to hear you play those songs at the Fillmore, you're like, how can a band replicate this? Well, you just get 14 people on stage at the Fillmore, and damn it, you can do it, and you did. It's such a great record, and I hope that if you're watching this right now and you don't own it, tease yourself on Spotify, but go and buy it. We'll have links below in the comments so you can pick it up. It's really great. I've got mine on vinyl, and
The vinyl's hot. Vinyl's hot.
But I mean, like, at what point? I mean, I can imagine whittling back from 40 songs. That must have been really hard because you want to keep all the story pieces flowing, but without missing, detail elements. That's pretty
Well,
amazing.
there were characters that I wanted to write into it. There was a love interest that at some point I wanted to delve into, but the one thing that really held me back was that the songs weren't any good. So the story was moving in ways, but I was just like, ah. But does anybody want to listen to a 40-song record with half the songs aren't really up to par? So I felt like I whittled it down to the 18 that stuck in this one groove. And who knows, maybe I'll write a part two, but don't get your hopes up. I want to get back to the more sappy, sappy socio-political songs.
Well, I'm excited to see, if you get any more kind of on-screen connection to this record. I don't know if there's anything in the works or if it's just done. And I mean, it could be a movie. I mean,
Sure could. You want to make it?
From what I hear, you're pretty good at doing that. So,
I am not interested. Unless Netflix wants to give me a bunch of money. I can definitely, sit in the director's chair and yell into a big,
the
what are those things called? Not a,
megaphone thingy, no cone.
yeah, like the old-fashioned one where you're just talking to it like this. Action!
Yeah, that's all you need.
Woolly! Rather than bullhorn. That's so modern. I don't like that.
Well, thanks for giving us that nice little kind of nutshell of your life and career leading up to this point. Yeah, I find it incredibly rad how you've gotten from where you started picking up a guitar, imitating Elvis, to releasing a rock opera album at the Fillmore. That's a pretty cool little window.
Yeah. Well, something else happened actually last year too that involves you. I had a unfortunate foot surgery after an unfortunate motorcycle accident, and was kind of out of commission for a while and couldn't pay my bills. And Casey Turner, the Mention the Flesh here, decided to throw me a benefit concert with a bunch of my friends and fellow musicians covering all of my songs for me to see, like watching my own funeral. And all the ticket sales was going to go to my medical bills. And from that, as a thank you to not only you, but all the people that came and all the people that donated to this Kickstarter in order to help me pay those medical bills, I wrote and recorded another album this last year of 15 songs, and it's done, and it's coming out on May 22nd, and it's called Almost Done. So, that was a record that was started about a year ago, almost today, and and is now complete. And I call it almost done because people kept asking me about my Kickstarter album, and I'm like, it's almost done. It's almost done. And I said it for so long that the album became almost done. But it's done.
That's brilliant. How's your foot doing? Is it doing okay?
Eh, it's never gonna heal. It healed wrong, and so I'll always have kind of a little mean gangsta limp, but it's just something to add to the character of the Sam Chase.
Like you say in your Rock Bottom song, your stories are going to be the one that are your stories are the most interesting ones to listen to.
Your kids will always, instead of hearing your stories, they'll rather hear mine.
Exactly, and that's because it's just part of the story. So we're gonna ask some. I got some fan questions here for you, and then we'll end with a song. Again, I want to thank everyone for tuning in and for being here. And of course, like all these in my series, we've gone over the hour, but who cares? Because I ain't got nothing else to do.
Yeah, I was gonna stare out this window.
Yeah. Oh. Okay, so we'll try to get through these here. So the first one comes from Ivana. She wants to know, what are the names of your cats, and how is life with them during this time?
I know who this question is from. This so I have two cats. I have Jack, who's a 20-year-old salty sailor, and the old man of the household. Basically, he's like 102-year-old in human years, basically walking from the food bowl to the litter box and back to bed. But we didn't think he was going to last this long. But we brought home a kitten in September, and his name is Copernicus Butterscotch, and he has breathed new life into old man Jack, and they're the best of buddies. And my phone, I got like a terabyte hard drive on my phone, and it is full of cat pictures in this quarantine time. I find that when I'm not talking to Casey Turner, I'm taking photos of my cat.
And sharing them with all of us on Instagram, which, he should be promoting his latest record and everything, but it's really just full of cat photos.
Much like me sharing my political beliefs with the world, you don't want to see all of the photos that I've been taking. I've been showing the choice few. It's great.
It's great.
I love it. Having cats during this has been incredible because there's always something to look at and go, oh.
Ben Morrison of the Brothers Comatose, he has a fan question for you. Ben Morrison asks,
Never heard of him.
Sam, what is your favorite guilty pleasure karaoke song? And can you give us a little sample?
Yeah. Yes, I can. Let's see here. Let me turn this down. How's that? Better?
Yeah.
Tommy used to work on the docks. Union's been on strike. He's down on its lucky stuff. So tough. Gina works the diner all day, working for the man. She brings home a pay for love. For love. She says you gotta hold on to what we've got. It doesn't make a difference if you make it or not. We got each other, and that's a lot for love. We'll give it a shot. Oh, we're halfway there. Wow, living on a prayer. Take my hand, we'll make it, I swear. Wow, living on a prayer. There you go,
Very
Ben Morrison.
nice. There you go. That was more than a sample, I would say.
Yeah. Oh, I've got so many guilty pleasure karaoke songs. That's one.
I'm aware of that.
When we're on tour, the band has kind of we've started hitting up karaoke bars. And when Willie T and I were on tour, we kept finding ourselves in different karaoke bars. Hey, there's the guy.
I had the fortunate pleasure to hang with you on your birthday this year, and you and I ventured over to Bernal Heights and hung out in a karaoke bar, and you sang like 7 songs.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, you had a few drinks.
I had
Okay. Adrian C wants to ask, if you had any choice, who would you like to collaborate with?
Oh, that's a great question. I probably shouldn't think about it so hard because there's so many things that go into a good collaboration. Um, Trust is a big one, and humility is a big one, and um, uh, kind of uh, the ability to be open to new ideas and not so married to your own ideas. And a lot of my heroes that I would love to collaborate with probably aren't super good at letting this nobody come in and write a song with them. So I don't know. I guess it'd be somebody that I'm familiar with, somebody that I'm close to, somebody that I feel like I could talk to. Because you can't write a song with somebody that you can't have a long conversation with first.
That is such a real answer. Most people would be like, "Oh man, I would love to jam with Paul McCartney." You're like, "No,
Springsteen.
no.
Yeah.
Realistically, do they want to jam with me? And how is that going to direct the session?" I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Me and Springsteen would write a terrible song together. We have no similar interests whatsoever. And all I've ever wanted to do is just sound like him anyway. So I'd probably get up there and want to write a song about growing up in Jersey, which I didn't do. So it's like, I don't know. But,
That's
at
the
the
best.
same
That's the
time,
best answer.
I feel like I could learn so much from that collaboration, though. Whereas if I wrote a song with, like, say, Ben Morrison, it'd just be us probably getting drunk together and having a lot of fun and probably writing a pretty kick-ass song out of it. Um, yeah, that's a
Uh,
good
to,
question.
yeah, that's a good one. Tom Downing asks, "Oh, I'm glad that he asked this because we didn't really touch on this in this conversation, which I know this is a big part of your life, but he really loves the music videos that you've directed for like the T Sisters and other local bands. Just he wanted to just kind of ask, like, talk a little bit about your experience with directing film, and I mean, you have a background in film.
Hmm.
You want to talk about that a little bit? We didn't really get deep into that, but briefly, kind of just give us a little insight to
Was
that
there a
part of the
question
Sam work.
associated? Was that a...
Yeah, I think he was just we wanted to make it. He wanted to make a statement that he really loves your director work,
Oh,
and
great.
just curious on how you got into doing that.
Well, I went to school for film, and I went to school for film because I dicked around in college for a super long time and didn't pick a major. I just majorly dicked around, and it came. I was a junior in college, and finally, like, oh my god, what am I going to do? And I was like a pretty solid slacker student. I've always been a pretty slacker student unless I find the thing that I'm passionate about. Like art and music has always been something that been I've excelled in. And so I got into film because it was something that I was pseudo passionate about, and I aced every single class, and I really got wrapped up into it. I love doing it because it's just a different expression of the same things that I've been doing my whole life, which is art and music. And uh, I loved being able to kind of write songs in the visual form. Um, and so when we started making music, I was working at this place called Left Space, which is a photography rental studio, but also a studio owned by this famous photographer. If you live in San Francisco and you've seen the Muni buses with all the dancers like dancing on the side of the bus, that's R.J. Muna. He took that photo in that studio, and since working there over 10 years ago, uh, we became very, very close friends, and he offered up his services, all of his many nice cameras and studios and stuff, for us to kind of play and create these absurd, fun music videos. Um,
That's
and and so for us, those were those music videos. But then I branched out and been able to, uh, take that and direct music videos for a lot of my friends as well. It's just, a way to keep busy in art rather than
I think
just
that's
on.
really cool because going back to that very, very first conversation we had in this conversation about you having the whole plan on how the van was going to open up and your dad was the drummer and totally directing how that party was going to go when you were a kid is total insight to how your mind works a little bit even as an adult. It sounds like.
Yeah, I was thinking about actually, it wasn't the memory of that birthday party like came to me this morning. I hadn't thought about it in years and years and years, and so when you brought it up earlier, the memory was fresh enough that I could harken back to that. But I was thinking to myself, that does explain a lot.
We got time for two more quick questions here, and then we're going to wrap up with a song. We are well over time. I don't want to keep everyone too late, but our friend John Craigie has a question for you. John asks, what's your favorite thing to do backstage to calm your nerves before a show?
Oh, Craigie, you know the answer to that. Um, I like to drink whiskey. Next question.
Well, what's funny about when I was talking to John, I was like, hey, you got a question for Sam? And I was kind of hoping he would direct a question to ask you about your crippling porn addiction. And then John said, well, that wouldn't be as funny because not everyone has heard us play that song. And for those of you that don't know, there is a duet that John Craigie and Sam Chase have. It's incredible. You want, well, you can talk maybe briefly about that, but there's a part in there where you say you have a crippling porn addiction, and you kind of take the blow in that song. I mean, like you're the one that leaves. John's the hero at the end of that song, unfortunately.
Yeah, he's the straight man and I'm the heel. We're the odd couple, basically. And the song is called. I like to call it "I'm Sam Chase and he's John Craigie." He probably calls it "He's Sam Chase and I'm John Craigie." But so we haven't figured out the title of the song yet. But it's basically about how he's so straight laced and normal, almost to a fault, and I'm the exact opposite, also to a fault. And the refrain is, "We're both full of shit, but you got to admit, it's a good kind of shit."
I'm sure it's out there on YouTube somewhere. If you can find it, it's worth hunting down. The last question comes from someone you know very well, the great Stephen Chase, also known as the Dad Chase, as he signs his emails to me. After every
Dad
show,
has a
we've pretty
question
much
for me. My dad
just
has a question.
just about every show I've ever had with Sam, I'll get an email from his father. It just says, "Thank you so much for having him and supporting him," and he always signs it the Dad Chase. It's the sweetest thing, and he'll usually sit somewhere towards the front and knows every word to every song. And I just think that's your parents are both really great people, and they're super supportive of you, and you can tell that through. Um,
Absolutely, he's my biggest fan. I wonder if this
and
is
the
a
drummer and the drummer in your band, so it's like
yeah, yeah. I wonder if this is a question for the benefit of the listeners, or if this is a question that he actually does want to know the answer to. Because, I mean, we have a relationship in which we call each other, and he could have called me and asked me this question. However, he wants to ask this question in a very public way. Probably that because the answer would either be embarrassing to me, or it's an answer that would be somehow talking about how he is the biggest fan of the Sam Chase, lauding him at the awarded prize of a biggest fan. That's
well,
my theory.
well, I think you're going to come out as being kind of the asshole here, Sam, because it's a really good question. And that's why I saved
Okay.
it towards the end. It says, "How do you want your music to be remembered?"
Um, yes.
Pretty good question. That's a good
No,
question.
that's the answer.
Oh
Yes.
yes. There it is, folks. Sam, can you close us out with a song, and we'll let all these friendly people go. Thank you again, everyone watching and letting us know where you're tuning in from. We'll go back through and make sure we answer everyone's questions. If you have any other questions for Sam, feel free to plug him in below, and maybe he'll see it and get back to you. Also, please do go to that merch store. All that beautiful merch behind him there is for sale at on the Sam Chase's website, which we'll post links below. All right, what are you gonna close us out with?
Well, we talked a lot about rock bottoms never felt so good. So I feel like I should probably end with that. I should probably turn this mic down too. There we go. That's better. Or did I ever turn the mic back up? Ah, well.
You never did turn it back up. Yeah.
Okay, we're at the end of the show.
Okay.
But I want to thank everybody for hanging out this whole time. Some of you might have just shown up expecting to see a whole show, but sadly we are at the end. I want to thank everyone for all the questions. Dad, that was a wonderful question. We could talk about it later on the phone. But, it was kind of a flip answer, but the moral of the story is I just want the music to be remembered. It's not that I necessarily want people to remember it for any particular reason. That's up to them, and that is something that is deeply personal to them. That's what I would like. So I would just like it to be remembered. And I want you all to remember this song not as the drunk Sam Chase, but the self-reflective, emotive, and personal, and vulnerable Sam Chase. The humorous Sam Chase throughout all the sadness. The joyous Sam Chase. Oh, we've all got our problems. We all have pockets to fill. We got our grocery lists and things we've missed to pay our cell phone bills. But I spend my nights on the bar scene with my friends bartending, so I drink for free until the world starts spiraling and I'm poured into the street. And I can see it all go down from the lights of this town. It is lighting my descent in all the times that I have spent misunderstood. Rock bottoms never felt so good. Maybe I should start this over. Maybe try doing it sober. Swear tonight will be the night that I will not wake up hungover. But all of a sudden the sun is rising, and it's not very surprising that I'm lying on the roof, drinking Jack and railing lines, and I can see it all go down from the lights of this town. It is lighting my descent in all the times that I have spent misunderstood. Rock bottoms never felt so good. Rock bottoms never felt so good. Whoa, They say you can't do this forever. I don't intend to prove them wrong, but you know even the longest lives don't really last for very long. So I'll live it while I've got it, and what I've got I'm living fine. But when you tell your kids your stories, you know they'd all rather hear mine. 'Cause I've seen the sunrise from a million different pairs of eyes, and I smoked many a cheap cigar, drank many old cheaper wines. And no, you don't seem so impressed, at least as far as I can tell. But you know I can play guitar and sing, and I can do it pretty well. And I owe every lyric, every riff, and every song to all the things that I have done, even when most of them were wrong. But you know that is just my life, when nothing ever seems enough. You can tell me what you will about my ways, and I'll politely tell you to fuck off. And I can see it all go down from the lights of this town. It is lighting my descent in all the times that I have spent misunderstood. Rock bottoms never felt so good. Rock bottoms never felt so good. Oh, rock bottoms never felt so good.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That's the Sam Chase, which will hopefully be seen on a stage with his full band, the Untraditional, sooner than later. But for now, you can check him out on Fridays on the Sam Chase and the Untraditional Facebook page at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And below, you can buy all that great merchandise behind you. I've got a Sam Chase hat. I should have wore it for this thing, but I have a rule where I can't wear multiple band merchandise, because in the rock Bible it says never trust someone that wears multiple bands merchandise. So I
And
wore
you're
my
having a
Willie
great
Taylor
hair day.
shirt. It's not too bad, all things considered. Not as good as yours though. Yours looks great. So that's the Sam Chase. Thank you guys again for being here. I'm Casey Turner. Our next episode is this Monday, May 4th, with Robbie Folks, and then next week, next Thursday, May 7th, I've got Steve Pultz is going to be joining us. So lots of fun times coming on the Talk to Me series. Thank you for all your support. Your tips really do help a lot through this time. Continue to share this. We'll upload it to YouTube so you can watch it later, and it'll be on Facebook. Thanks again, Sam Chase, for being with us.